You are not crazy. The person you call your soulmate may actually be a ruthless parasite wearing love as a disguise. That suffocating feeling you get every night? That's the exact moment the trap snaps shut. Stay until the end, because this truth may be the only way out. Have you ever stood in front of a mirror, stared into your own hollow, sleep-deprived eyes, and thought, who is that broken person looking back at me? Because at some point, you stop recognizing yourself. It hits hardest at night, usually when everything gets quiet. Around 2 in the morning, when your chest feels so tight it's like an invisible hand is crushing the air out of you. Not because someone physically hurt you, but because of one cold sentence, one look, one twisted conversation that made you question your worth, your memory, your sanity, and everything you thought was real. You poured your heart out. You searched through every memory. You tried to explain your pain with every last ounce of energy you had. All because you wanted one thing: to be understood by the person who hurt you. And what did you get back? A smirk, a sigh, a stare that silently stamped you with labels like too sensitive, too emotional, dramatic, unstable, crazy. So now the question starts eating you alive. What if they're right? What if I really am the problem? What if I'm the toxic one? If that question has been draining the life out of you night after night, then listen very carefully. You are not losing your mind. You are trapped inside a prison with no bars. You are being slowly consumed by someone who feeds on confusion, guilt, and emotional control. You are standing inside one of the most sophisticated mind games a human being can be dragged into. And if you do not understand the rules of that game, you can lose more than the relationship. You can lose yourself. So stay with me. If these words hit somewhere deep inside you, then this message is for you. This is not here to comfort your illusion. It is here to expose the truth. Because sometimes the truth does not feel gentle. Sometimes it feels like surgery. But surgery hurts because it saves. And here is the truth you need to tattoo into your mind right now. You are not crazy. You are not asking for too much. And no, this is not all your fault. You are exhausted because you have been surviving with the heart of a people pleaser. The kind of person who wants peace so badly that they start sacrificing their own dignity just to keep things from exploding. You step back once, and they step over you 10 times. You give 10% more, and they demand 100% more. Every move you make starts feeling dangerous. Every word has to be measured. Every breath feels like it could trigger them. You try to fix the relationship with love. You try to heal it with patience. You try to save it with empathy. But the more love you pour in, the emptier you become. That is not because you are failing. That is because the trap was built to work exactly that way. The moment you start doubting your own memory, your own judgment, your own instincts, the trap is already closing. And what makes it so terrifying is that it does not look like a trap at first. It looks like love. It looks like intimacy. It looks like a rare connection. But underneath all of that, something darker is happening. Because the person in front of you may not be a misunderstood soulmate. They may not be a wounded lover who just needs more patience. You may be dealing with a narcissistic personality, someone who survives by draining other people emotionally, controlling their reality, and keeping them off balance long enough to stay in power. And I'm not saying that from some cold, detached distance. I'm not talking as someone who read a few books and decided to play expert. I'm saying this as someone who has been there. Someone who knows what it feels like to sit in darkness and feel your own nervous system turning against you. Someone who knows what it feels like to beg for oxygen in a room that looks normal from the outside. Someone who has had their mind twisted, their heart ripped open, and their worth slowly dismantled piece by piece. But I also know something else. You can survive this. You can come back from this. You can rebuild after this. That is why I'm here. Not to pity you, not to tell you to keep enduring, but to hand you the map I wish someone had handed me. It is time to stop wasting sacred tears on someone who will never feel what you feel. It is time to stop calling emotional destruction love. It is time to hold the trembling part of yourself with compassion and admit the truth. You have been wounded, and that admission is not weakness. It is the beginning of healing, because the truth you are about to face may shatter your last illusion, but it may also be the only thing powerful enough to save your life. Now let's go back to the beginning, because no one walks into a toxic relationship thinking, I hope this destroys me. It never starts that way. It starts like a miracle. It starts like destiny. It starts with someone entering your life at exactly the right moment, saying exactly the right things, noticing the things no one else seemed to notice. They listen deeply. They remember tiny details. They make you feel seen in a way that feels almost supernatural. They mirror your dreams. They echo your pain. They speak as if the universe personally designed them to understand you, and you believed it. Of course you did. Because what they offered did not feel ordinary. It felt rare. It felt like home. It felt like the answer to prayers you may not have even realized you were still praying. You lowered your guard. You opened the gates. You handed over your heart because you thought you had finally met someone safe enough to hold it. But here is where it gets dangerous. That perfect connection may not have been genuine intimacy at all. It may have been strategic mirroring. A narcissistic person often does not show up with a stable, grounded self. They show up like a human mirror. They study your desires, your wounds, your unmet needs, your fantasies about love, and then reflect all of it back to you in the most irresistible form possible. They become what you have been longing for, not because they truly are that person, but because becoming that person is how they gain access to you. That first stage feels intoxicating for a reason. It is emotional flooding. It is love bombing. It is the psychological equivalent of being given the strongest drug you have ever tasted. You feel elevated, chosen, adored, special, important. You feel like you matter in a way you may have never experienced before. And that is exactly why the fall hits so hard. Because once you are attached, once your roots are in their soil, the mask begins to slip. Not all at once. That would be too obvious. It happens slowly, quietly, just enough to confuse you. A dismissive comment here, a cold look there, a criticism disguised as concern, a long silence used as punishment, a mood shift that comes out of nowhere and leaves you scrambling to figure out what changed. Yesterday, they adored you. Today, they act irritated by your existence, and that shift is what breaks something inside you because you do not respond like a predator. You respond like a person with empathy. You assume there must be a reason. You look inward. You search for what you did wrong. You convince yourself maybe you were too much, too needy, too emotional, too flawed. You start chasing the version of them you met in the beginning. You keep thinking, if I can just get it right, maybe they'll come back. Maybe we can go back. But the person you were trying to get back was never fully real. That version was bait. And the moment you start shrinking yourself to win their warmth again, the trauma bond begins. Your body gets hooked on the cycle. Pain, relief, distance, reward, confusion, comfort, collapse. Your brain starts craving the rare moments of affection like a starving person grabbing crumbs. You are no longer loving what is real. You are clinging to a ghost, an illusion, a memory of what you hoped this relationship was going to be. That changes everything. Because once you understand that, you stop asking, how do I fix this? And you start asking the real question, why was I trained to keep chasing what keeps hurting me? The cruelty does not stop at taking away the fantasy. That is only the beginning. What comes next is more dangerous because it is quieter. It seeps in slowly. It rewrites your inner world one conversation at a time. And the goal is simple. If they can make you distrust yourself, they no longer need chains to control you. This is where manipulation becomes psychological warfare. Every conflict gets twisted. Every fact gets bent. Every memory gets reworked until somehow they come out innocent and you come out unstable. You catch them in a lie, and instead of accountability, you get chaos. They bring up old mistakes. They exaggerate unrelated details. They change the subject. They flip the story. They overwhelm you so thoroughly that by the end of the conversation, you are the one apologizing while they walk away feeling powerful. That is not miscommunication. That is control. Look closely at how you have been living. Do you say sorry even when you did nothing wrong? Do you rehearse your sentences before speaking because you are terrified of setting them off? Do you monitor your tone, your face, your timing, your wording, your reactions, not because you are manipulative, but because you are trying to survive? Do you feel relief when they are in a good mood, and dread when you hear the shift in their voice? That is not love. That is conditioning. They plant the idea that no one else would ever put up with you, that you are lucky they stay, that you are difficult, broken, unreasonable. They isolate you from friends and family, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly. They poison your trust in the people who might help you see clearly. They make you feel guilty for reaching out. They make you feel exposed for having needs. They make you feel selfish for wanting basic respect. And then comes one of the darkest moves of all, blame reversal. They explode, and somehow you become the abusive one for reacting. They wound you, and somehow you become the problem for bleeding. They push you to the edge, then act shocked when you break down. That is why so many victims of emotional manipulation look crazy by the end. Not because they started out unstable, but because prolonged mind games can push even the most loving, self-aware person into survival mode. Constant tension changes you. Chronic confusion changes you. Being denied your reality over and over again changes you. Little by little, your sense of self starts disappearing. The things that used to light you up no longer matter. The hobbies, the laughter, the ease, the small joys that made you feel like you. They all start fading because your energy now has one purpose: manage them, please them, avoid triggering them, keep the peace, survive the next shift. You look in the mirror and see someone tired, hollow, unfamiliar, and the loneliness is brutal. Because one of the cruelest parts of narcissistic abuse is this: you can lie right next to someone and still feel completely abandoned. Their silence becomes punishment. Their distance becomes terror. Their presence becomes a threat. You explain and explain, but your words fall into a black hole. You keep trying to be heard by someone who has no real interest in understanding you. Because your pain is not the point. Their control is. Your emotional reactions become fuel. Your confusion becomes leverage. Your desperation becomes proof that the system is working. And the longer this goes on, the more your core identity gets worn down. Not all at once, not dramatically. Just slowly enough that one day you wake up and realize you've been disappearing in plain sight. Once you finally see what is happening, the next step is the hardest one of all. Not because it is complicated, because it is painful. The move that saves you is not understanding them better. It is not explaining yourself one more time. It is not finding the perfect words, the perfect evidence, the perfect breakdown of what they did to you. The move that saves you is acceptance. Brutal, devastating, soul-splitting acceptance. You have to accept that the person you fell in love with may never have truly existed in the way you believed. You have to accept that there may never be a final, honest conversation. There may never be a clean apology. There may never be a moment where they suddenly see the damage they caused and break down in genuine remorse. That closure you are waiting for, it may never come from them. And that is the heartbreak. You have to let go of the fantasy that your love can heal someone who has been using your love as a resource. You have to stop treating empathy like a magic spell. You have to face the fact that the more chances you give, the more access they get. That is where the real break begins. And for many people, the only life-saving rule at this stage is this: no contact, no texting, no calling, no checking their socials. No, just one last conversation. No pretending to be friends. No peaceful little exit where everybody stays mature and kind. Because that fantasy keeps people trapped. If you keep the door cracked open, they will keep reaching through it. And if life makes total separation impossible because of children, work, or shared responsibilities, then you need another strategy. Become emotionally unreadable. What some people call the grey rock method. No emotional reactions, no extra explanations, no unnecessary conflict, no energy for them to feed on. You do not perform. You do not chase understanding. You do not give them drama, tears, or emotional access they can twist into power. When the supply dries up, they often lose interest. But let's be honest, walking away is not just hard. Sometimes it feels unbearable, because leaving a narcissistic bond is not like leaving a normal relationship. It feels like withdrawal. Your mind will go back to the early days, the sweetness, the intensity, the moments that made you feel chosen. Your body will crave relief from the pain, and sometimes it will confuse relief with going back. There will be nights when you want to reach for your phone. There will be moments when your mind whispers, Maybe they've changed. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I'm the one who ruined it. That is the trauma bond talking. So when those moments come, hold yourself steady. Go back to the truth. Read the messages. Read the journal entries. Remember the panic. Remember the humiliation. Remember what it cost you to stay. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself rage. Let yourself mourn the years, the hope, the fantasy, the version of you that kept begging love to stop hurting. Because the pain of leaving is not proof you are making the wrong choice. It is proof the chains are breaking. Yes, you may bleed. Yes, you may shake. Yes, you may grieve like something inside you is dying. But something is dying. The addiction, the illusion, the bondage. And what replaces it, slowly, is freedom. If you stay the course, something beautiful begins to happen. Not overnight, not in some dramatic movie moment, but gradually, undeniably, powerfully. One day you wake up and the weight on your chest feels lighter. The fear that used to sit in your nervous system 24/7 is no longer running the whole show. The inner voice that kept attacking you starts getting quieter. The air feels different. Food tastes different. The sky looks different. The silence no longer feels threatening. It feels peaceful. And that is the moment you realize something incredible. You survived, but healing is not becoming the person you were before the damage. That version of you is gone. And maybe that hurts to admit, but healing is not about going backward. It is about becoming someone new, someone deeper, stronger, wiser, more grounded, someone who knows exactly what it costs to abandon themselves and refuses to do it again. This is where the real rebuilding begins. You turn inward and start speaking to the most wounded part of yourself with the tenderness you kept giving everyone else. You tell that part of you, "I'm here now. I believe you. I will protect you." And from this point forward, you do not have to earn safety by suffering. You start building boundaries that do not apologize for existing. You learn to say no without writing a full essay to justify it. You stop confusing guilt with wrongdoing. You stop treating self-betrayal like kindness. Piece by piece, you gather what was broken inside you. Your dignity, your voice, your standards, your instincts, your trust in your own perception. And slowly, you create a self that feels more solid than the one you lost. The scars do not disappear, but they stop meaning I failed. They start meaning I made it out. And here is one of the hardest truths, but also one of the most powerful. This painful experience may become the wake-up call that changes your entire life. Because what this kind of relationship forces you to confront is not just them. It forces you to confront your own pattern of overgiving, over-explaining, over-accommodating, and under-protecting yourself. It forces you to look at the ache that made you so hungry to be chosen in the first place. It forces you to notice how little love you had been giving yourself long before they arrived. That is why recovery is bigger than leaving a person. It is about ending the habit of abandoning yourself. When you learn to fill your own cup, you stop begging for droplets from people who only know how to ration affection. When you learn to trust your own nervous system again, you stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. When you build self-respect at the level of identity, manipulation has a much harder time getting in. And no, this journey is not easy. It can feel lonely. It can feel raw. It can feel unfair. But lonely is not the same as lost. Raw is not the same as broken. Unfair is not the same as hopeless. Look how far you've already come. If you are listening to words like these and something inside you is waking up, that means your will to live is stronger than the fear that tried to cage you. That means some part of you still knows there is more waiting for you than survival. That means your life is not over. It is beginning again. So do not go back just because the dark is familiar. There is nothing behind you but erosion. There is nothing there but the slow death of your spirit. The future is in front of you now. Stand up. Lift your head. Walk forward. Your real life starts the moment you stop begging to be loved in places that require you to disappear. Living through a narcissistic relationship can feel like being pulled into a nightmare disguised as a dream. You get drawn in by the illusion of rare love, deep connection, and emotional destiny. Then little by little, that illusion turns into confusion, control, self-doubt, and psychological collapse. The abuse is not always loud. Sometimes it is subtle. Sometimes it is polished. Sometimes it looks like concern, silence, guilt, or love. But its effect is the same. It erodes your sense of self until you no longer trust your own reality. And yet, the end of that illusion can become the beginning of your rebirth. The moment you stop waiting for them to validate your pain, the moment you stop trying to earn back the version of them that never truly existed, the moment you choose distance over more damage, that is the moment your power starts returning. No contact, or emotional detachment when contact is unavoidable, is not cruelty. It is self-rescue. Grieving the bond is not weakness. It is detox. Rebuilding yourself is not selfish. It is sacred. Because real love will never require you to betray your own soul. Real love will never ask you to shrink, bleed, explain, and beg just to be treated like a human being. And no one is coming to save you the way you can save yourself once you finally see clearly. So, starting today, take an honest look at the relationships around you. If someone consistently leaves you feeling small, guilty, unstable, ashamed, or responsible for pain you did not create, pay attention. If someone always plays the victim, twists your words, crosses your boundaries, or makes you apologize for things you did not do, that is not something to brush off. That is a warning. Set the boundary. Say no. Pull back. Protect your peace. And stop giving endless access to people who keep proving they do not know how to love without control. Spend time reconnecting with yourself. Return to what lights you up. Write down what is real. Honor your instincts. Fill your own emotional cup, instead of waiting for the world to hand you permission to matter. Now, I want to ask you something. What do you think is the clearest red flag that someone may be emotionally manipulative at the start of a relationship? Drop your answer in the comments. Your insight might help someone else see what they've been missing. And if this message gave words to something you've been carrying in silence, subscribe to the channel and stay with us. There is a whole life waiting for you on the other side of clarity.